Today's sports psychology guest is Mickey Hike. He is a parkour athlete and a pilot, flying planes in the sky. He is a co-founder of a parkour gym since he was 19 years old, and also a founder of a university's rugby club. He was a contestant on the show called American Ninja Warrior. He has his Bachelor's of Science in Aviation Science, Flight, and an AS in Engineering, Drafting Technologies. He is currently an instrument-rated commercial pilot and training to be a missionary pilot. All right, so let's get this interview started. Woo! Hi, Mickey.
Hello. How's it going?
Hi, good. I'm so happy that we get to listen to you today because I know you have some great things to share. I kind of wanted to start with, I'm just curious how you were as a child, because as the viewers have seen through your intro, you are a little daredevil.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. My parents, they kind of told me that at a surprisingly young age, I was like moving things in front of the door, trying to climb up to it to get to the doorknob. And like they put me on top of the fridge one day when I was really, really young. And then like I was continually trying to climb to get myself to the top of the fridge again from then on. And so it's funny, I was kind of always into just climbing things and I guess pushing myself at a pretty young age. And then I grew up out in the country and we had rocks and boulders and trees all over the property, and so I just grew up outside climbing things, jumping on things, and so I really grew to love just moving and using my body to just explore the environment. So yeah, that's
that is adorable. Okay, so now that makes sense. There we go. There we have it. I could totally picture you, little Mickey, climbing up things, trying to, oh yeah, that's great. So what came first? Was it parkour or being a pilot? What sparked your interest?
I think, well, so in second grade, I decided that I wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force. I said I wanted to be a Air Force pilot lieutenant. Those were my words. But yeah, I still have the paper that I wrote it down on. But then as the years kind of went on, I wanted to be a park ranger then, and I did a couple other things. And so I moved away from the desire to be a pilot, and then kind of parkour came in, fell in love with parkour, and opened the parkour gym and so on. And then once I was in university, I decided that I was re-inspired to start flying through a friend of mine. And so I got into flying and then realized it was absolutely what I wanted to do. And so I'm super passionate about that as well. So it kind of went back and forth, you know, because I mean, you could say that parkour started before second grade too, if you count climbing on fridges.
I know technically. Wow. So I get that. So there's a little bit of an inner mix going on there. For me, I would be scared to jump off buildings, but for you, you're so present and calm with it. And with flying, it's kind of like that too. Oh my gosh, well, you're in the air and all these people are trusting you with their lives. With parkour, what is going on in your mind and what's your mindset like when you're about to jump off of something really high? Because you seem really calm when you do this.
Yeah. You know, I think when you said, you know, being present and calm, I think that kind of really nailed it. It's all about, you know, being present in the moment, in such a way that, you're aware of things like fear and things like, the distance and the height and all these things. You want to have an awareness situationally of everything that's going on, but then being able to kind of compartmentalize and put things in their respective places. And so, the fear, it's important beforehand, but you don't want that fear in the very moment that you're doing it. So, when you kind of can put that aside, focus on the maneuver at hand and doing it successfully, that's kind of what it's all about. And so, if I were to do a jump 100 times on the ground, or let's say 1,000 times on the ground, and I would succeed, every single time, then take it up 100 feet or 200 feet or whatever, and the jump hasn't changed, only the consequences changed. And so, it's being able to equate the maneuvers while putting the being aware again of the consequences, but being able to put it aside. So
that's a really good point, being able to equate them, because technically they're the same thing. One's just way up there, but that's a really good point. And trying to have, so you're saying kind of like having that mindset of, okay, they're equal. So then when you go up there, the fear kind of simmers because of that?
Sometimes.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that the fear goes away, because, it does. I would say it absolutely does. You're right. But it doesn't go away completely. So I think simmer. But, I think if I were to have not put in all the training and everything, and I were to go up there and look at it, I would be way more terrified. So that is a good point. I guess confidence really comes into play. But that kind of speaks to, when people see someone up on a skyscraper who's, running along the edge or doing a backflip on the edge, and they look at him and they go like, that guy's an idiot. Like, what is he thinking? What is he doing? Like,
exactly. That's what people think.
Yeah. And because to them, they see the risk, they see the consequence, but they don't see the familiarity with the maneuver, and all the training that's gone into it. So, again, being able to do that backflip 100 times without messing up on a ledge on the ground, nothing changes. And so that's I think where the distinction comes in.
That is a pretty prevalent distinction, because you're so right. I mean, if I'm in my car and I see a Mickey hanging from a skyscraper, I'm like, oh, Mickey's gonna die, what's gonna happen? But to you, it's, no, I'm trained in this. I'm familiar with this. This is comfortable for me.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah. And another part is just, being okay, or, having plan A, plan B, plan C. Another thing is, if I were to be doing a big jump between, two big buildings or what have you, if I were to not be able to get both of my feet to the ledge, well, I know that I can get 1 foot to the top of the ledge and 1 foot to the side, and we call that a crane. If I can't even get 1 foot to the top, then I can get both feet on the wall and both hands on the top, and we call that a cat hang. And so, being aware of, how can this go wrong, and how am I going to deal with that? That's another thing that makes us feel a lot more secure and more prepared for those kinds of things. And like you said, does help the fear simmer and be put aside a little bit.
Nice. Okay, so let's have some fun with this. I'm curious how we can turn a technical parkour movement into a life lesson.
Oh, yeah. I think the first thing that definitely comes to mind is balance. Balance was one of those ones where I had been coaching a student, and all of a sudden I was making these connections in my brain right there in the moment as I was coaching him, and I was like, man, this is exactly like life itself. But basically what it was is I was teaching him rail balance, so walking along a rail like a handrail, and what I realized about the balance was it's a little bit of a semantics in your brain. There's a little bit of a shift in perspective, although it seems kind of obvious. But I said, when you're walking on the rail, try to think about maintaining balance the whole time and not letting the balance go and then trying to regain the balance, letting it go, regain it, but just really trying to focus on not letting the balance get lost at all to begin with. And so then I realized, like, man, that's exactly like life. If we're constantly letting the balance, letting the balance go from one side to the other, you know, where's the balance at all? We have to first find the balance to then be able to maintain it. And so similarly with life, if we don't have it to begin with, then we can't maintain balance. And so I think often in life, we're seeking balance. We're trying to find the balance in our life, and it's really just this going from left to right. Like, is it over here? Is it over here? And we really just gotta kind of like center in on where exactly it is. Cut a couple things off here or there, and then once we establish that balance, then we can even build from there, and while maintaining the balance.
Whew!
So that one was pretty cool. That one I'm still wrestling with in my own life.
Aren't we all? I swear I'm going to be 100 one day and still not know, but that's okay. That's okay. That's why life. But that's a really, really special point you just made, Mickey. Okay, so I'm maintaining it versus, like you said, drifting. Then I'll come back for a bit, but now I'm going to drift. And then that's a really, really special point. Well, thank you for that. So, Mickey, I wanted you to speak about what your mindset looks like when you are about to fly a plane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually funny. There's a lot of crossover with the mindset, between parkour and flying. Just as far as, being confident in your abilities, being confident in your training, being confident in, emergency procedures, just like I kind of talked about jumping between a building, that you can do the crane if you need to, you can do the cat lip if you need to. Same with, flying. We're aware of what the emergency situations can be, how they can arise, and then knowing how to, mitigate those risks or those emergencies. And so, it's the same kind of a concept with being able to put any sort of stresses aside, fears aside, like you were saying with, people watching and those kinds of pressures, all those kinds of things we've got to be aware of, and be able to, put them aside and just focus on what we're doing. And so, yeah, with flying, having gone through the training, in stressful situations, there are normal reactions to stress and there are abnormal reactions to stress. And so, abnormal reactions to stress, laughing, inappropriate laughter, all kinds of like strange things. And, but then, a normal reaction to a stressful situation would be to react precisely and exactly in accordance to like whatever your training has been. So, if you're not training, you're not familiar with what can go wrong, then, when those situations come up, then you might not respond appropriately. And so, similarly with parkour, we learn how to fall. Falling is not a bad thing to us. Like we're okay with falling. We like falling. We practice falling. Falling is not, and same with, emergency situations in the air. We don't necessarily see them as bad. It's just, an abnormal situation that could potentially be dangerous, if it's not responded to appropriately. So yeah, just training, and similarly with parkour, knowing yourself, knowing how you're going to go about those situations before they arise. That way you can, respond precisely and exactly.
Great. It sounds like there's a lot of similarities with the two. Both of them involve knowing your capabilities, strong point there, and also with preparing. There's a lot of preparation that it seems like goes on with both of them, preparing for the plan B. And I liked that you brought up the point of it's not bad. Abnormalities aren't bad. but it's how you prepare for them and how you react to them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you conceptualize all of this into real life?
There are quite a few actually ways that that applies. The first thing that comes to mind is just, like I've mentioned a couple times already, the fear aspect. And fear is just one emotion. We have many emotions, and emotions certainly have their place. Like we need that fear because the fear, is warning us, okay, this is dangerous. It's informing us of the risk. And so we need that fear. And just like with any other emotions, they have their place and they're important. But if we just let that fear consume us, we're not going to be able to do the task at hand. And similarly with other emotions, we can't let them get out of control. We want to be aware of them, but then we have to kind of put them in their place, if you will. And so I think that applies to a lot of areas in life, beyond fear, but other emotions too, sadness and even joy. All kinds of emotions that if we let them really consume us, we might be getting, I guess, off task or off track. So being able to just kind of compartmentalize has been something that's been really useful in other areas of my life. Another thing is just problem solving. Like with parkour, it's all about overcoming obstacles. It's not about, knocking the obstacles down. It's like when I see a wall out in my environment, I'm not thinking, man, I got to knock that wall down. I'm thinking, man, okay, I got to elevate my skill set so that I can navigate this wall. And so I really have appreciated that because that's just, that mindset has permeated everything in my life, where it's not, how can I fix the environment? How can I fix all these other things? Because a lot of the times the environment and the things out there are out of your control. Mm-hmm. But what you can do, and your own even perspective, attitude, mindset, skill set, all these things are the things that you can do. And so learning to solve problems by starting here and not starting out there. So I think that's those two. Those two are probably the most profound that I think correlate into most areas of my life.
I think that should be a quote for parkour. It's not about taking down the obstacles. It's about overcoming them and being able to overcome them. How we can problem solve. It sounds like it comes from within you, your internal sense, instead of external, the things around us in our environment. It really does start from within. If you want to fix something, it starts right here.
And then, once you start to elevate those skill sets and you start to evolve as a person, you start to see more opportunities. Like in parkour, we have a thing that we call parkour vision. And basically what it is before doing parkour, you walk around and you see a walkway and you see, a tree, and you see, you see the environment for, what it is. And then you start to learn parkour and you develop some skills, some, and ability to kind of maneuver through this environment in another way. And then all of a sudden, as you're walking around, I kid you not, you just start to see a Kong cat there. And like, these are parkour movements, and all of a sudden I see a stride precision there, and I see a underbar there. And it's like everywhere you go, you just start to see opportunities. And so I think that kind of really speaks to life as a whole as well, where, the environment hasn't changed, but you've changed. And now, not only are you able to overcome different obstacles in your path, but you also see opportunities for something, that you had never seen before. And so
wow. Yes, unbelievable. Isn't that interesting that once we start practicing something so much that's new to us, our vision changes? Yeah. Like you mentioned with walking around, oh, that's a tree. That's a tree. No, it's actually a insert parkour name. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That happens because, and I can totally see how you would say it would relate to life. Change is
Mm-hmm.
good. People don't like change. It's uncomfortable, especially if you have anxiety. It's hard, but like
Right.
we were talking about, if you're kind of just looking at things for how they are, being more present,
Mm.
it's not that bad. And like you said, it brings about more opportunities.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's a pretty great thing to have. So, and your sports are very unique. So it's nice to hear from.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've really appreciated about it. You know, is it's opened my eyes to a lot more than I had been previously exposed to. You know, so I'm really grateful for what it's done for my life. Yeah, you know, in all sports, they all have something to teach us. We, you know, there's so many parallels with physical activity and sports and the rest of life. That's a really great thing. It's been a lot of fun getting to share a little bit of the mindset behind parkour athletes and pilots as well. So
Sports teach us so many life lessons, and sometimes we don't even realize that's happening. But later on, when we get older,
oh
like
yeah,
now we can talk about it.
for sure.
But all right, well, thank you so much, Mick.
Thank you. It's been great.